how about you? Gonna be doing a continued reaction to Elements of Justice Turnabout Theater, Case 1, Part 3 of 3. I'll be cutting this in half because it's 2 hours long, and you know how I feel about long videos, so yeah, this one's half. So, last we checked, we found out that Coco was actually innocent, and there was a third party, and I'm pretty much sure it was that one pony that bumped into something Palomane or something like that. So let's find out. Three, two, and one. Never liked big cities.
Yelling rabble, rabble, rabble isn't going to help anything.
But we don't know what else to do!
Rabble,
Court will now reconvene. Prince Blueblood, has the police brought the results of the hoofprint analysis?
Yes, they have, Your Honor.
Then please share your findings with the court. Well,
what are you
don't just
crappy
stand
about?
there looking irritated.
Sure,
Say
you might
something.
lose, but at least you're bringing justice.
It's just as the defense claims. The hoofprints don't belong to either the defendant or the victim.
So, do they really belong to one of the other contestants in that fashion contest?
Yep, and I know who
Yes,
it is.
well,
I
just
bet.
as Princess Twilight requested, we compared the prints found backstage and on the catwalk to those of the contestants. Apparently, some observant pony down at Forensics noticed that only one contestant has any connection to any pony involved in this case. He checked
I
their
right?
prints first and found a perfect match.
Wow. Can I get that guy in all of my future cases?
You actually found a match? Then please tell us, whose hoofprints are they?
The hoofprint analysis has concluded that the one who left those hoofprints at the time of the crime was a mare by the name of Siri Polomare.
Yep.
Surrey Polomare?
So,
Still kind
Twilight
of
was
cool
right
name.
after all.
So that should be hard enough evidence to lock her up, right?
We subpoenaed her during the recess. She is just
Is that
arrived
even a
and is
word?
waiting in the witness lobby, Your Honor.
Then please bring her to the stand at once.
So she can be guilty as charged.
Name and occupation, please.
This is ridiculous.
You've been proven guilty, you
I was in the
dumb.
middle of something very important, and then the police barged into my apartment and demanded that I accompany them to the courthouse. Some nerve.
Witness, I would appreciate it if you would state your name and occupation for the record.
I need to finish my dresses before tomorrow. I'll be ruined if I don't
Are you
finish
even
soon.
paying attention?
Can't you all see that I'm a very busy mare? You don't
No
just
one cares.
drop in on some pony like me and take me away from my duties, okay?
Witness, name, occupation.
Fine. Sorry, Polomare. I am a fashion designer.
Miss Polomare, are you aware of why you are called to the stand today?
No, I am not. The police who showed up at my apartment didn't tell me a thing.
You are called here because you are suspected of murdering a costume designer by the name of Overall Concept.
What? Murder? I did no such thing. I'm too busy dealing with my own problems to commit something so heinous.
Liar.
I see.
Really, Your Honor? That's all you have to say to that?
Well then, does the defense have any objections?
As shocking as it may sound, I do, Your Honor. Based on the analysis that the prosecution revealed, the hoofprints belong to Miss Polomare. She must have been the one who made them at the scene of the crime, which means she must also be the one who stole Overall Concept special fabric and murdered him.
A human is here to accuse me of something I didn't do.
How is seeing a human so common?
Okay.
Then how do you explain these hoofprints left behind? The analysis
It's like
clearly
meeting a
shows that they're
freaking
yours.
unicorn in our universe.
Now you listen here. I didn't commit any sort of theft or murder, but if it makes you feel any happier, I'll tell you what I was doing that night.
You're actually going to cooperate?
She's gonna
It's not
lie.
like any of you are giving me a choice.
I'm feeling it's
I'm
up to
gonna do something very important.
Coco to
The
remember
sooner I get out, the sooner I
in
get
order to
back to work.
kill Victor.
Well, we appreciate your cooperation, Miss Polo Mare. Now please testify as to your whereabouts at the time of the incident.
She's gonna lie through her teeth.
I guess I can't really hide this. I was indeed at the play that night. It was during the intermission that I went to the dressing room to meet up with Coco. As soon as the second act started, I took a casual walk backstage. I went up the catwalk, walked across, and went back down on the opposite side. I then went out the back door and left the theater before the incident happened.
When they were running
So,
and
you
you hear
admit
the
that you were
bang.
actually at the theater.
Don't act so surprised. I never denied that I was. Now look, I am in a hurry right now. I've said what happened. Can I go home now? I have more important things to do, okay?
And you better hope I don't find anything that makes you stay longer.
Indeed, Mr. Wright. You may now cross-examine the witness.
I guess I can't really hide this. I was indeed at the play that night.
Hold it!
Were you
You said you were
invited?
busy earlier. Were you also this busy on the night in question?
Of course I was. I'm currently in a fashion contest and the dresses
Then
need
why
to
did
be
you go
finished
to a
soon.
play?
I'm not done yet, so I need all the time I can get to finish them. Like the time you're all wasting right now.
Is the contest really that important?
Of course it is. This contest can make or break a designer's career.
If this contest is such a big deal, why did you go to the theater?
Exactly.
I needed a break. I felt going to the theater would help me unwind. I
Wasn't
knew
it all
Coco
sold
Bell was
out
working there,
though?
I thought I
So
might
how
as well
did you get the
give it
time to
a-
actually? You'd have to plan way ahead.
What exactly were you doing with the defendant, witness?
It was during the intermission that I went to the dressing room to meet up with Coco.
Hold it! You went during the intermission.
I was
But you
leaving
don't
to
like
the theater,
Coco.
so I couldn't make it backstage before the play started. When the play went on break, I figured it was the best opportunity to get backstage.
But aren't the staff
Take
in
a
the
look.
theater guarding the stage? I find it hard to believe that they would let someone in the audience go backstage.
Yeah.
I've been to the theater many times, so the staff are quite familiar with me. They just let me through.
Oh,
Did
that
the
is
staff mention
bull.
anything about you going backstage?
That's probably because they had no reason to. I wasn't there when the crime occurred, after all.
In that case, why didn't Miss Palmel mention anything about you?
Miss Pamel could have easily lied about any pony else being involved.
I find that very hard to believe.
Yeah.
If she actually didn't want to get caught as the murderer, she would have mentioned a third party was involved right from the beginning. In fact,
Yeah.
not mentioning just that makes your previous theory rather unlikely. Why would my client try so hard to create false evidence and then not even bother to mention that a third party was there? Especially if there actually was one there.
Yeah.
Who knows what the defendant was thinking? Unless you have a solid objection to this testimony defense, I suggest you move on.
Very well. That leads me to my next question. Why did you meet with Miss Palmel?
Yeah.
That is none of your concern.
Yes,
I
it
beg
is.
to differ. Your business with Miss Palmel has everything to do with this case.
Well, if it's that important, I was just there to visit her.
You're a liar! You're a liar! You know something that you're not telling us, you slimy scumbag liar!
Oh,
Visit her.
bullcrap.
For what?
Nothing in particular, just to see her.
From what I hear, the two of you aren't exactly on good terms. Miss Palmel said she used to be your assistant, and she quit.
Our professional history is irrelevant. I was just there to see her again for old time's sake and put everything behind us.
So, what did you talk about?
You lying.
Nothing much.
bitch.
I was wondering how she was doing. She and her friend were just working on this fabric as we talked.
Special fabric? Did you know about the fabric prior to your visit?
No, this was the first time I'd heard about this fabric. They let me have a look, and I even touched it a bit. Very soft fabric, I should say.
So she felt the fabric.
But it was
That
wet.
would explain how she got paint on her hooves to make the hoof prints. As for the path itself, though...
As soon as the second act started, I took a casual walk backstage.
Hold it! Took a casual walk around?
Well, I was finished with our conversation, so I just figured that looking around backstage was a good way to unwind. The area was way bigger than I thought, so I couldn't help but wander around looking at everything. It reminded me of the last fashion competition I was in, and of seeing the models
Does
wearing
not
their
add
designs
up.
on stage.
Does not add up.
If only I had won the contest, I would... But that was months ago. I am far too busy to talk about my past accomplishments.
Or lack thereof, according to Rarity and
Their
Coco.
ego is worse than
Could you have
Trixie's.
just watched the show instead?
If I decided to watch the show, then I would have gotten too distracted to get back to work on my dresses. But I still was a little curious about the play, so I took a little peek. From a different perspective, you could say.
They said you had to pay in advance. There is no possible way.
I went up the catwalk,
Even if you
walked
knew
across,
them,
and went
they
back
still wouldn't
down
let
on
you
the
in.
opposite side.
Hold it!
But
Went
they
up to
knew
the
you.
catwalk.
I wanted to see the play for a short bit before I left.
But no
I
one
must
is
admit,
allowed
it
above the
was
catwalk
very
during the play,
intimidating, but
dumb
it sure
mare.
was a great view.
But neither playwright nor the stage hooves mentioned anything about you going up to the catwalk.
Yeah.
Why would they not mention you being backstage, especially since you're not part of the audience or the staff?
Objection! If you recall playwright's testimony, you would know that he was paying attention to the play. He only looked at the catwalk because he heard ponies running. This witness had no
True.
reason to make any sort of ruckus, so it's possible that she went up to the catwalk quietly without any pony noticing, especially since backstage was dark at that moment.
Unfortunately, I can't deny that. It would explain the hoof prints, but I don't believe that's the right explanation. It has to be something else, and I'm going to show her why all of this is false.
Any final
Yeah.
statements, witness?
I then went out the back door and left the theater before the incident happened.
Hold it! Just so we're all clear, you came in through the main entrance and left through the back door. And that's what you're saying.
That's correct.
Alright.
Adding this to your testimony, for clarity's sake?
If it means I can leave soon, then fine.
The witness will add this clarification to her testimony.
Okay.
I entered the theater via the main entrance and left through the back door before anything even happened. Happy now?
Objection!
Nope.
Miss Polomare, there's a significant contradiction in your testimony.
What?
I see no such contradiction, human. Stop trying to force your reasoning when the trial's not going in your favor.
Huh,
How about
like
you
you're
zip
one to
it?
talk.
Mr. Wright, would you care to explain this contradiction to the court?
Certainly, Your Honor. Suri claims that she left the theater before the murder took place, and therefore she has no connection to this case. Well, I have it on good faith that this claim is a bold-faced lie.
Yep.
And what evidence do you have to support that statement?
Well, first, let's clear up a separate issue regarding Suri's movements that night. She mentioned
Alright.
that she entered the theater through the front, which was where the audience sat. I find that very odd.
Odd, but she was an attendee. That's where every pony goes.
Yeah,
when
but
they
that would
enter
distract the
theater.
crowd. They would look at her.
That's where the audience goes. That is, if you're actually a part of the audience.
Explain!
The witness said that she was late to the theater and arrived after the play had started. According to your own words, Prince Blueblood, the show in question was sold out around noon that day.
Yep.
It was actually Coco who purchased the last ticket and gave it to one of her friends as a gift. This means that if Miss Polomare just went to the theater on a whim, she would have had no way to get through the front door to get inside the theater.
Yep. Yeah, she gave her ticket to Rarity.
Order! Order! Witness, have you been lying to this court?
She's a liar.
No, of course not. I must have
Gotcha.
gotten confused. What with the stress of this competition. I bought my ticket a few days in advance, so I was still able to get into the theater without any problem.
Liar! Tell us what you know, you goddamn liar!
Where's the proof?
Even if that were true, that doesn't solve the biggest issue with your claim.
There's another?
Oh yes, and this will be the one that will reveal just how closely connected you are with this case.
Please
Man, this is
explain
running
this
quickly,
point.
isn't it?
Of course, Your Honor. The police made sure to interrogate all 5,000 attendees in the theater. If you really had bought your ticket, then the police would have discovered your absence immediately. They would have
Yep.
only interrogated 4,999 members of the audience. That means the only possible explanation for this inconsistency is that you were never part of the audience.
Ooh, gotcha.
This can't be.
Quit trying to win the trial for your reputation and start trying to win the
It
trial
seems
for
far
justice.
more likely
Dumb
that you
horse.
perjured yourself. What do you have to say to explain this?
Isn't it obvious? I went back to my seat after I saw that it was raining outside. Jeez, why are you picking apart every insignificant detail?
You went back to your
Liar.
seat. How did you do that?
What do you mean, how did I do that? I walked back through the stage wing and returned to the audience.
Objection!
Did
Unfortunately,
anybody see you?
that is impossible.
Why?
If you recall, the stage wings were being watched during the second act of the play. There were stage
Yep.
hooves in the right wing, while playwright and his stage manager were in the left. Even if they could have somehow failed to notice the witness going to and from the catwalk, there's no way they would have missed her walking right past them.
Yeah.
Objection! But the right wing was empty following the incident. She could have made her way back to the audience at that point.
Yes, that's exactly what happened. I went back to my seat when the wing was empty.
Then the police obviously took your name down when they interrogated you, correct?
You're screwed.
Tartarus with you, you filthy human!
Well,
Oh,
Prince
shut up, you
Blueblood,
stupid horse.
was this witness among those who were interrogated?
No, she was not.
What? How dare you?
So, as you
You're
can see, the
busted.
witness was not among those interrogated, the total number of which added up to a full house of 5,000. This, in addition to the glowing hoofprints, conclusively proves
So
that
how can a
Suri
theater have
did
that
not
many
enter the
people?
theater
I mean,
as a
that's
member of the
a very small
audience.
theater.
She came in through the back door with the express purpose of stealing a roll of overall special fabric.
Witness, explain yourself at once!
You're screwed.
Witness?
Eh? What lie are you gonna make now?
So, this is how far the equestrian royalty have fallen, huh?
What?
How pitiful. You can't even protect a damsel in distress from being falsely accused.
Now see here! I am trying my hardest to help.
Shut up! I cannot
Oh!
believe I gave you permission to speak.
Excuse
me?
me? I am a prince, I'll
Then
have
where's
you
your
know.
crown?
The nephew of Princess Celestia. You should
Yeah, I bet
treat
she's
me
proud
with
of
the
you.
respect I deserve.
Respect? Don't make me laugh. A prince who uses the power he's borrowing from his aunt for no other purpose than to grant himself prestige.
Even though
among
she's
the
a mean
elites of
pony, but I
Canterlot
love how she's
isn't some
badgering
pony
him.
worth respecting.
How dare you?
Simmer down. The adults are talking now, okay?
Should we try to stop? Not in this case, no, I don't think so.
Miss Polo Mare, restrain yourself or you will be held in contempt of court!
Do it.
Jeez. And here I thought a pony couldn't get any more intimidating. Twilight?
What did she mean this is how far the equestrian royalty have fallen?
Huh?
Now, witness, please explain to the court how
It's not
you
seeming
came to
I'm
be at the
exactly
theater on the
perfect,
night of the
so-
murder.
Fine, I admit it. I was not there as an audience member.
So you were lying to us.
Yep.
Yes, I was.
Witness! What are you doing? You realize that lying to the court would make me look—
Shut up! I don't care about how it makes you look. I don't recall you actually helping me out.
I beg your pardon? You dare talk back at me, witness? In case you hadn't noticed, I'm trying to save your sorry flank.
Then how about you stop
Poorly.
sitting on yours and make yourself useful for once?
Are you really challenging my patience?
Your patience? I've been trying to be patient ever since I got here, and I have no time to be patient. I have dresses to work on.
Order in the court! Witness, you've
Yeah,
just
I
committed
guess-
perjury.
Jobs are important,
I will
but
allow you an opportunity to clear the air. I suggest you take it rather than argue with the prosecution. Now, why would you lie to this court?
Maybe if you would all just be quiet.
she's
for
a lying
moment,
dirtbag.
I can explain.
Explain?
Let's cut to the chase, shall we? You're trying to say that I stole the fabric and killed the costume designer, correct?
That's right. Uh-oh.
Yeah?
Why do I have a bad feeling about what she's going to say?
yeah, she's gonna lie about
If that's
something.
the case, then why wouldn't I have just left the theater after stealing it? I had no reason to stick around and murder Overall, correct?
But what if he caught you trying to escape? You'd naturally want to stop him from catching you.
Stop him, perhaps? But there are several ways to do that without killing him, okay?
Now look, here's
Well,
how he died.
Perhaps you had some sort of hidden connection to the victim that we don't know about yet.
In that case, Your Honor, I would like to testify regarding my connection to this pony overall concept.
Okay.
Competition?
What are you doing, witness? I'm supposed to be the one to call for things like that.
Then how about you actually do your job instead of waiting for me to do it for you? Maybe if you were actually competent at your job, I wouldn't be standing here having my name dragged through the mud and my patience tested because of this human attorney's endless questioning. If you want something done right, you do it yourself. Ugh.
Crack that
I
whip.
can never rely on others to do work for me anymore. Like I always say, it's every pony for themselves in the big city.
Well then, witness, please testify to the court about your connection to the victim.
My assumption is just competition.
I admit, I wasn't part of the audience. I noticed that the tickets were sold out, so I figured I'd come in the back door. The reason I came to the theater was to visit Coco Palmel and nothing else.
Liar.
It was then that I first met Overall Concept. After my visit, I left the theater. I had no reason to kill the victim.
Liar.
So, is that
You
all you have
liars.
to say, witness?
Yeah.
What else can I say? That's all that happened.
It's quite a short testimony for us to dissect.
Then all I need to do is press for more information. She's bound to reveal something.
Very well, Mr. Wright. Please begin your cross-examination.
Alright. Let's get it in.
I admit, I wasn't part of the audience.
Hold it! You acknowledge that you willingly trespassed in the theater.
Yes, but it wasn't as if I was gonna harm some pony. Besides, it's not
Where
like any
was
of you have ever
security?
trespassed before.
There's a big difference between a cattle ranch and a big city theater, you know. Were you planning on buying a ticket?
I planned to, but
Sold out.
I
But you're
noticed
still
that the tickets were
trespassing.
sold out, so I figured I'd come in the back door.
That's trespassing.
Were there no other entrances in the theater?
The only one I knew was the back door.
And there
Oh,
were no
bull
ponies
crap.
guarding the back door?
I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be in this mess if there were guards in the back to stop me, wouldn't you say?
Point taken. So what did you do once you went inside?
They need to work on their
The reason I came to the theater was to
security.
visit Coco Palmel and nothing else.
Oh, crap.
Why did you want to visit Miss Palmel?
She invited me to come over.
Eh?
So you were a guest.
Yes, I actually went there because Coco gave me a letter that day to come to the theater near the end of the play.
A letter?
That has to be a
Coco
lie.
didn't mention anything about a letter to Suri. This has got to be another lie. Do you still have this letter by any chance?
Not with me, but
She hesitated, so she probably was lying. Then how do we know that everything you just said was the truth?
I suppose you can't know for certain. But you absolutely cannot see that letter.
She's really aggressive about this letter, but I don't have any proof that this letter was there or not. Guess I'll come back to this when the time comes. So,
Alright.
what did you do after you arrived at the theater?
I talked with Coco for a bit, and it was then that I first met Overall Concept.
Hold it! You never met the victim before that point?
No, but I've heard of him. I mean, who hasn't? He earned his fame a few years ago in the same fashion contest I'm participating in. Something I'd like to get back to working on.
That checks out with what Blue Blood said earlier. Did you talk to him at all?
No, he was too consumed by his work. He was busy with a sheet of gorgeous fabric at the time.
I see. And
Probably
what
missed
did you
looking
do
for
after
Coco.
your visit with Coco?
After my visit, I left the theater. I had no reason to kill the victim.
Hold it!
Lying through your
You
teeth.
did have a reason. You went to steal the fabric.
Even if I did, which I didn't, by the way, I wouldn't have needed to kill Mr. Concept. in
Shine
order
the
to get
light
away
on
with
her
it.
hood.
But he was chasing you. You had to get him off
I know
your
she's
tail
probably
somehow.
cleaned her up by now, but who knows? Maybe
I think
it's still
that
on her.
hanging some pony would be considered a bit extreme if all I wanted to do was get him to stop chasing me. Am I right?
Then what weapon would you use?
Mr. Wright, do you have any evidence to disprove Miss Polomare's claims about having no motive to kill the victim?
What should I do? I don't have anything that shows a connection between Suri and
Come on,
Overall.
Coco, remember.
And I can't deny the fact that murdering him to get away with a theft is too extreme. Especially since we know that the victim was knocked unconscious before he died. Hey, Twilight, any ideas? Twilight?
Oh, sorry. What were you asking me?
Suri's motive for killing Overall. As much as I hate to say it, I can't help but think that she wouldn't kill him if she could have made a clean getaway.
Perhaps she didn't have a motive to kill Overall after all then. Perhaps her motive for murder is actually related to
Self-defense?
someone else instead.
Oh! Good thinking, Twilight.
Well, Mr. Wright, do you have an answer?
Your Honor, the defense is willing to
Surprised he
concede
gives
that
them
the
so much
witness
time
did
to
not
think.
have a direct motive to kill the victim.
You see, so you finally acknowledge that I'm innocent.
Not quite. You didn't have a motive to kill the victim, but you did have a motive to hurt someone else.
Mr. Wright,
Yep.
are you suggesting that there were 2 victims that night?
Indeed I
Yeah,
am, Your Honor.
Coco.
Shut up! What nonsense is this? There was only one victim at the theater that night. Overall Concept.
And Coco.
Your Honor, I would like the witness to add that last statement to her testimony.
What?
I'm not sure how this will help, but I guess I'll follow along.
Did they just write it
Witness,
down? Because
please
I
add
could
that
never
last
remember.
statement to your testimony.
Ah. There was only one victim at the theater that night. Overall Concept.
Objection!
Only one victim, huh? It seems you've forgotten about someone else who ended up as a victim in this case.
What are you blathering on about, attorney? Overall Concept was the only pony who was killed at the theater that night.
But that
Yeah,
doesn't
one
mean
who
he was
wasn't
the
killed.
only victim.
Quit wasting my time and just say what you want to say, okay?
Very well. It's true Overall Concept was the one murdered, but being murdered isn't a requirement in order to become a victim.
I'm just as confused as
Yeah,
everyone
bang,
else.
bang on the head.
Could you please explain, Mr. Wright?
For example, someone being the victim of assault. And while the victim was assaulted before his death, someone else was also attacked at the scene of the crime. Coco Palmel.
Miss Pamel? You mean with that stain on her mane?
Yes,
Yep.
that's exactly what I'm saying.
Objection! So what does that prove? It doesn't prove that the witness was the one who caused that mark on her mane.
Objection!
While it's not exactly proof that she was the one who attacked Miss Pommel, it would establish her motive for murdering Overall.
Her motive?
Yeah.
Think
the-
about it. After Miss Polymer was able to knock Overall down, all she needed to do was run away. As
With
she
that
said
whatever that was.
herself, she never knew the victim, leaving her no reason to commit murder.
Finally, you understand. I told you I wouldn't want to do something like kill him.
But then somebody else gave you a reason.
What's this now?
What do you mean?
You know who Coco Pommel is, correct?
Is this a
And if she
joke?
found out
I've
it was
already
you, then
mentioned
she
that.
could turn you in.
And what was your past relationship with her again?
Well,
You stole her stuff.
Before you say anything, I should warn you, both Rarity and Coco are listening, and I'm sure they'd be willing to testify to the truth if the need arises.
Yeah.
Objection! What does Miss Polomer and Miss Pommel's
Oh,
past
objection,
relationship
you
have to do with any
douchebag.
of this?
I'll gladly explain. When I spoke to Miss Pommel and Rarity, they had some very negative things to say about Miss Polomer. In another fashion contest that both Rarity and Suri Polomer had entered, Miss Polomer stole some of Rarity's own special fabric to make dresses with, and took all of the credit. Yet, it wasn't even the witness who made the dresses. Coco made them.
What?
You're in trouble.
But that's not all. At the end of the contest, she lied to Rarity by saying that she had lost, and made Coco lie to her as well. In response to her dishonesty, Coco quit as Miss Polomer's pupil.
You're saying that this witness has a history of lying and cheating?
Yep.
so what? Even if I did any of that, how does this have anything to do with this case?
A lot.
It's actually got everything to do with it.
Because now everyone
Really?
thinks you're a liar.
Now that we know their history together, let's bring it back to the current incident. Miss Polomer could have just knocked out Overall Concept and left with the special fabric, but a certain former pupil was right behind him.
Yes, that would be Miss Pommel. Oh!
With Coco
Yeah,
Pommel in
a
the
witness.
picture, it changes everything. I think anyone would have some feeling of animosity towards someone who called you out as a liar and a cheat in such a big contest. Am I right? Maybe
But
the feeling
why
was so
didn't she
deep
kill
seated
Coco?
that you would do anything to get back at them. Maybe even frame them for murder.
What?
Yeah.
Order! Order! Mr. Wright, explain what you mean at once!
It sounds exactly as
Your
it
Honor,
sounds.
the witness's motive in this case is not actually tied to the victim at all. Her motive was revenge against her former pupil, Coco Pommel.
You're
Yep.
saying that the witness killed someone simply to frame another for their death?
Yep.
Here's how I think things played out. Miss Polomer was originally planning on just stealing the fabric and escaping. After she knocked Overall out, she was about to make her exit, but then Coco showed up right behind the victim. After knocking her out too, Miss Polomer realized that she was in the perfect position to get revenge on the pony who had caused her such grave humiliation. That's right. She hanged Overall just to get revenge on Coco Pommel.
Yeesh. Dark. Everyone's. Really? Nothing? Eh?
Who was that?
Who do you think? How do you not know it's her?
Witness?
Shut up! I've had enough of this farce of a trial! Listen to you all! This is what Equestria is depending on as its means of serving justice? This court is an absolute farce!
Now, calm down, witness.
Silence, you senile old fool!
Excuse me?
Wow.
Senile?
Yes, a senile old fool. You're the one who's supposed to be mediating this trial,
Well,
correct?
I'm gonna put her down.
Then why haven't you put an end to that human lawyer's baseless slandering against me?
Well, he has made some very good...
Shut up!
Ooh.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Even though he has no evidence to support his
You are
claims,
burning
you just
that
let him
bridge
prattle on
hard.
anyway. And you,
Might as well put some explosives on it too.
you're supposed to be protecting me, are you not?
But you said you wanted to...
Shut up! It's not your job to stand there and complain. It's to prosecute that little traitor over there, okay? So why don't you go and get started by debunking this lawyer's theory?
Well...
Ugh. Do I have to do everything myself? Absolutely worthless. Ugh. Seems as if it's not only every pony for themselves in that big city, it's every pony for themselves no matter where you are.
Witness.
What?
You're saying that my theory is completely false. You didn't kill the victim or frame Ms. Palmel for his death.
Of course not.
In that case, I'd like you to testify to the full truth of what you did at the theater that night.
Ugh.
Come on, Coco. Remember.
Fine. Since neither the judge nor the prosecution will help me, I suppose I have to do this myself.
Very well. Witness, please test it.
Shut up! I know what I need to do.
Is someone
now sit
not gonna
back and
arrest
listen
her?
so the truth doesn't escape those worn-out ears of yours.
For her lengthy.
Yes, ma'am.
Seems as if we're finally approaching the end of our little play here. Time to make it or break it.
Alright.
I met with Coco Palmel after receiving a letter from her. After our meeting, I left the room, only to have Overall start chasing me. I ran up to the catwalk, hoping to outrun him. Suddenly, I heard a thud, and I noticed that Overall was on the ground, and the fabric fell out of his mouth. I saw Coco come from behind, grab the roll of fabric, and hit him over the head. She then took his body,
Then he was already
wrapped a noose around his neck, and
unconscious.
dropped him from the ledge. Coco told me to unwrap the fabric from the roll and leave the building, and I begrudgingly obliged.
You saw Miss Coco murder Mr. Concept?
Yes, I am a witness to the actual crime.
Why did you not mention this to me before? This is crucial information.
Coco
She's
told me to
making up
keep this a
as she goes.
secret. It was her idea after all.
But if this testimony is the truth, then that means you're an accomplice.
It's not as if I wanted to do this. Coco told me to keep quiet about it.
I find that
Wow,
very hard to
dirty
believe.
liar.
You honestly think this sudden revelation that Coco somehow forced you to cooperate will convince anyone?
Look,
Yeah,
I
that
saw
makes
what
no
I
sense.
saw, and I had to obey because I was afraid I would be her next victim, okay?
She's trying so hard to frame Coco for all of this.
All we gotta do is prove that she didn't do it. I think there's plenty of things she didn't take into account. We just need to show them.
Alright.
I met with Coco Palmel after receiving a letter from her.
And where's
What
the
time
letter?
did you receive this letter?
Well, I found it under my door when I got back to my apartment. It was probably around 4 in the afternoon.
That's
Why
odd.
would she even send you a
Thought she
letter
was
in the
lying about the
first
letter
place? She doesn't
earlier.
even like you.
But she answered rather quickly there. And what time did you go to the theater?
Well, I knew the play started at 7 and lasted about 2 hours long, so I made sure to arrive at the theater around 8:45.
According to the autopsy report, the time of death was between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. This lines up perfectly. What did you do once you were there?
I met up with Coco in the dressing room, She said she just wanted to catch up after not talking for a while. She and her friend, Overall Concept, were just finishing up coating a sheet of fabric with fluorescent paint.
But she
I even
said
accidentally touched
she
some of the
didn't
wet paint when I went to
see
feel the fabric.
Even with her memory.
Overall scolded me for doing so.
That mostly lines up with what Coco remembers. Is that a lucky guess? Or did she actually visit her? Did you do anything else during your visit?
Nothing much, really. As soon as they were done with coating the fabric in paint, Coco left the room for a moment to wash her hooves. There was really nothing left for me to talk about, so I just made my leave, as I did have to wash my hooves as well. However, I suddenly heard some kind of commotion. After our meeting, I left the room,
Yeah, this
only
doesn't
to have
sound right.
Overall start chasing me.
Overall started chasing you?
It was so out of nowhere. He was holding a fabric roll in his mouth, and he just had this very angry look on his face. I think you'd freak out too if a stallion like that just started running towards you.
Can you stop trying to turn it around on me? About this fabric roll, was it bare?
No, it had the fabric Coco and he had just finished working on wrapped around it. My best guess is he was rolling up the fabric, and then something disturbed him, so he ran out of the
Only can line up with my theory. So what did you do when you reached the top?
I was correct in thinking that going up to the catwalk would slow him down.
What do you mean by that, witness?
Suddenly, I heard a thud, and I noticed that Overall was on the ground, and the fabric fell out of his mouth.
He tripped?
Yes, and based on the sound of the clang he made, he must have tripped hard.
Sounds like someone hit him.
Playwright mentioned something about hearing a clang as well, but would the victim tripping really make such a loud noise?
No, it would make a thud.
Where did the fabric roll after he dropped it?
Nowhere really. It just landed right in front of him.
Did you keep running after he tripped?
I was going to originally, but then I saw something quite unsettling.
Eh?
I saw Coco come from behind, grab the roll of fabric, and hit him over the
When he
head.
was already unconscious?
Miss Polomare, that statement contains a glaring issue.
Glaring?
Yeah.
Care to explain, Mr. Wright?
Certainly. The witness claims that she saw Coco take the fabric roll and hit Overall on the head with it.
I fail to see the problem.
Because he was already unconscious.
Well, if you recall, Coco's hooves didn't have a trace of
Yeah.
paint on them. If the fabric was wet enough to cover Miss Polomare's hooves in paint, then it should have also covered Coco's when she grabbed
Yeah,
it.
good point.
It's a fairly simple explanation, human. Remember that this paint could have been washed in the rain. Since this witness stated that Miss Pamel gave the fabric to her and
But
left
Pamel
it
still
here,
has the
she
ink on her.
didn't need to hide the fabric herself, which means she wouldn't have needed to step outside completely, just far enough out that she could get her hooves wet. You see, this was all part of the defendant's plan to frame Miss Polomare for the crime.
In that case, how do you plan to explain away these other two inconsistencies?
Inconsistencies?
Indeed. They arise from a detail in the autopsy report. Namely, the areas where the fabric roll touched the victim.
Alright.
What's wrong with that? The autopsy stated that there was a bruise on the back of the head, and if Miss Pamel came from behind, it would naturally be the area where she would strike him.
It's not what's been left behind on Overall's body that's the problem. It's what
Oh, the
wasn't
sprinkles.
left behind.
Huh? What do you mean?
Have you forgotten already? The fabric had just been coated with fluorescent paint, and it was still
Oh yeah, he didn't have any
at the
paint.
crime. If
Oh,
Overall
no.
was really holding it in his mouth, there would have been traces of paint left over in his mouth.
Perhaps the paint was washed away.
It would
by the
should still been
saliva.
on his face.
Even if that were somehow the case, it wouldn't matter, because there was another spot where the paint couldn't have been washed
Back of the
away.
head?
Couldn't... Ah, no!
If Overall was hit on the back of the head with the wet fabric on the fabric roll, then some of the
Yep.
paint would have been discovered there.
What's happening? Someone please enlighten me so that I can be shocked too.
Your Honor, the autopsy report states no other substances or residues were found on the victim's body aside from the glitter on his forehooves. We also know, thanks to the previous testimony, that the special fabric was indeed wrapped around the fabric roll at the time of the murder. And it was most definitely still wet. Based on all this evidence and the testimony presented up to this point, it is impossible for the victim to have been hit on the head.
It had been hit by something else.
What?
Everyone's catching up to your lies.
Objection! Then the only other explanation is the roll must have been empty this whole time. It would explain why there were no stains on him.
Objection! Unfortunately, Prince Blueblood, that cannot be the case. A torn piece of fabric was found on stage, indicating that the fabric must have gone up the catwalk at some point. And even if we were to ignore that, the witness herself just claimed that the fabric was on the roll when it was brought up.
Then that must mean that the defendant unwrapped the fabric from the roll as soon as she got up there, and then hit Overall with it.
Unless you were a unicorn, unwrapping the roll would have taken far too much time, and Overall would have
True.
managed to escape without being attacked. No matter what way you try to interpret it, it's impossible for Coco or anyone else to have used
I'm still having a hard time believing someone can get knocked out by that.
So, what
What
was
do
the
you
fabric
think?
roll used for then, Mr. Wright?
It's become apparent that Suri Polymere was the only one who could have brought the fabric up to the catwalk.
And why's that?
Overall couldn't have done so without getting paid on himself, and Coco couldn't have done it without being seen by Playwright. So there's only one pony left. Process of elimination. Right, Prince Blueblood? So, Miss Polymere, do you deny that you were the one who
Guilty
carried
as
the fabric
charged.
roll up the catwalk? There's no one else who could have done it, so you might as well...
So what if I did?
Huh?
Listen here, human. Maybe I did steal the fabric. Maybe I did attack Coco Pommel. But here's the thing. This proves nothing!
Yeah.
What do you mean? Proves nothing.
You're saying that I knocked both the victim and Coco Pommel out with that fabric roll, right? Well, how exactly did I manage to not leave any traces of paint on the victim myself, then, You're claiming that Coco couldn't have hit the victim with the roll because she would have left paint on him. The same reasoning applies to me.
Unless he used a different weapon.
That is indeed true, but if you really did go to the theater to steal the fabric, it's possible that you might have prepared a weapon of your own to fend off anyone that would try to stop you.
It's possible? Well, then why don't you go ahead and prove that possibility? I can say for certain that I did not bring a single thing to the theater other than what I have on right now. So go ahead. Prove
If Coco could remember.
Other weapon if you can.
Well, Mr. Wright, can you
Unfortunately,
prove the
he
existence
can't.
of a different weapon the witness could have used to knock out the victim?
Are you kidding me? How am I supposed to do that? I've got no leads to go off of. It could be anything.
Admit it, you have nothing, filthy human. Your Honor,
Yes, Miss Polomere?
I request an escort to take me back to my apartment. And
Come on, Coco, remember.
we can all put this travesty behind us.
I'm afraid you will have to be brought in for questioning before that. You were an accomplice to the defendant, after all. But I'm sure the police can arrange for some form of transportation after that.
Whatever. It's still better than being charged for murder.
Yeah, you need a miracle.
If I don't think of something now, she's going to get away.
Phoenix!
Twilight, there's nothing! I don't know what she could have used to knock the victim out.
Calm down. There's gotta be something we've overlooked.
How
Yeah.
can I calm down now?
Huh?
The real killer's about to get away.
Phoenix, follow my lead.
Oh, that thing.
What was that?
It's a breathing exercise my sister-in-law taught me. She's a princess too, and she taught me this to prepare myself for stressful situations I would have to face as a princess myself.
I see. Wait, your sister-in-law?
There's a long story.
And there's another princess?
That's not important right now, Phoenix.
Right.
Why are they giving you this much time?
Anyway, we need to think quickly here. Suri must have brought something to the theater that night to use as a weapon.
But the only thing she'll admit to having brought with her are the clothes she has on now.
Then let's see if we can use those.
Are you nuts? How could she have knocked someone out with an article of clothing?
We'll think about that later. This is the only lead we have left right now.
Well then, if there are no further objections, I believe it is time we conclude the cross-examination of this witness.
That attitude.
About time, too.
Alright, let's see what you get.
Objection! Your Honor, the defense would like to present evidence at this time.
Evidence?
Yes, evidence that shows exactly what this witness used to attack overall concept on the night of the murder.
Yeah, what? She could headbutt him or something.
You can't possibly have anything.
Mr. Wright, please explain what you mean.
I've got to think fast here. No, not just fast, crazy. Miss Polomare must have somehow knocked out Overall with just a piece of clothing. She's not wearing anything.
So what'd she
that would
clang him
enough
with?
to cause such a large bruise on the back of his head, though. So, time to think outside of the box. Instead of figuring out what she used on the victim, we should figure out what she did to him to cause that bruise.
The hard hoof steps from them on the wooden floor were already bad enough. Mix that with a rattling cutlock and that loud clang. That's enough to ruin a play as it is.
On the way up the stairs, I heard a loud clanging noise, and I ran as quickly as I could to see what happened.
Could what be?
Could it be?
Time's up, Mr. Wright. The witness has made some valid points in her defense. Do you have anything to refute them?
I do, Your Honor.
I told you before. I didn't bring a weapon to the theater.
You got something.
Oh, I believe you. You didn't bring anything of the sort.
But, Mr. Wright, wasn't your whole theory based on her having another weapon?
She's called Phoenix. What the hell's wrong with you?
And still is.
Explain, human.
What if this other weapon wasn't a conventional one?
Meaning?
The defense is of the opinion that we were going about this the wrong way. Recall that playwright mentioned there was a loud clang during the chase.
At least try and keep up, attorney. That was when the victim tripped. We just established this in Miss Polomare's testimony.
I beg to differ. I think that
maybe she bashed his head against the metal.
Overall was knocked unconscious.
And how would that be? You've admitted that she had no weapon with her. What else could possibly have made that clang? It would have had to have been something metal.
I completely agree. Your Honor, the defense proposes that the witness Suri Polomare knocked the victim out.
Yeah, that's what I thought. She bashed his head against the metal.
Itself.
What?
Shut up! Do you hear yourself, human? How in the world would I have been able to use a catwalk as a weapon?
Simple. All you had to do was throw him against it. If he hit the back of his head against the railing hard enough,
you're in trouble.
I'm sure that would have been able to knock him out cold.
That's absolutely ridiculous.
Objection! Impossible, might I add. The witness is a mare of rather petite stature.
That's kind of
suggesting that she managed to overpower a fully grown stallion with nothing but her hooves, and then, after doing so, throw him hard enough against the railing to knock him unconscious?
Not quite.
Huh?
You're right that she used the railing to knock him out, but she didn't do so with her bare hooves.
be related to that unconventional weapon you mentioned earlier by any chance?
Oh, that little thing around the
Exactly,
neck?
Your Honor. In fact, she kindly brought it into the court for all to see.
What?
Your Honor, this is the weapon Miss Polomare used to overpower the victim.
Yep.
Take that!
Makes sense.
You're saying she used a scarf?
Recall what the witness just said moments ago.
I can say for certain that I did not bring a single thing to the theater other than what I have on right now.
Nothing other than what she has on. Ah!
Oh! If that's true, then the weapon she used should be clear as day. After making it to the catwalk, she took the scarf off of her neck and waited for the victim to ascend as well. Once he did, she quickly wrapped the scarf around the unsuspecting Overall's neck. The two no doubt struggled as he tried to free himself.
That would hurt.
But as his strength waned, Miss Polomare managed to knock out Overall by throwing him against the catwalk's railing.
Objection! Are you listening to yourself, human? If she had done that, she
Ooh,
would have left
clever.
marks around the victim's neck.
Marks that I'm sure weren't just seen as having been caused by the rope. Am I right? Then, just as Miss Polomare finished incapacitating Overall, who should show up but Coco. After coming across a scene like that, she would have been too on guard for the witness to use her scarf again.
You're in trouble.
So instead, she used the fabric roll she had with her to knock Coco out as well.
Shut up! You... What are you
Yeah, you're
talking
losing
about?
it.
I did no such thing. Your Honor, please throw this lawyer out of the courtroom now!
Because you're a bitch.
I'm sorry, Miss Polomare, but I can't do that.
Why is that?
Mr. Wright's theory may seem far-fetched, but I cannot deny that what he has proposed is indeed a possibility. Prince Blueblood, any thoughts?
Well...
Oh dear. It seems we have reached an impasse. I suppose I have no choice but to suspend proceedings of this trial for another—
Hold it! Your Honor, I have evidence to prove my innocence.
You do? Well, let's hear it then.
Very well. Mr. Wright, you're saying that I used my scarf to strangle the victim on the night of the murder, correct?
Well, not exactly to death or anything, but something like that, yes.
In that case, there should be paint marks on my scarf, right? I clearly wasn't aware of the paint that stained my hoofs since I left behind a pretty noticeable trail at the scene. So, obviously, that means I wouldn't have washed it to get rid of those marks, correct?
You probably cleaned it.
I suppose so.
Then go ahead. I'll give you permission to test my scarf for traces of paint. I promise you, you won't find anything on it.
Well, Mr. Wright, do you wish to request that we test Miss Polomare's scarf?
This feels like a trap. There's no doubt that she was unaware of the paint that night. If she had known, she wouldn't have left such a clear trail behind. In that case, the fact that she so eagerly gave up her scarf for testing can only mean that she's certain that whatever paint she left on has been washed off. So then, the answer should be clear. No, Your Honor.
What?
Why not, Mr. Wright? This could be your
should probably
only
leave it.
chance to prove your case.
That would be because there's no way that the scarf has any paint left on it.
And how are you so sure of that?
Yeah,
Because
you're in
last
trouble.
night, at the time of the murder, it was raining outside.
No!
Even though you were completely unaware of the fluorescent paint that night, that doesn't matter in the slightest. Any traces of paint that remained on your hooves or your scarf would have undoubtedly been washed away by the rain as you made your way back home.
You insane human!
Order! Order!
Why are you getting so passive with her? You should be pissed with her.
You stay out of this. This is between me and that lawyer over there.
Of course, ma'am.
Gee,
Thanks for nothing, Your Honor.
So, human, since you refuse to let me try and prove my own innocence, how about you show some evidence that proves my guilt?
Your guilt.
Everything you've said so far is all based on circumstantial evidence. The scarf, the fabric, the clothing. You've woven a fascinating yarn. But can you prove it to be true?
She's right. At the moment, this is all just circumstantial. Just conjecture. But that's about to change very soon.
If you can't prove I killed Overall and framed Coco for it, then cease your baseless accusations, okay?
Well, Mr. Wright, do you have anything that conclusively
Alright,
proves that
let's
this
see.
witness was the one who killed Overall Concept and then framed the defendant as an act of revenge?
This is it. The final piece of the puzzle. If I can't prove Suri's guilt now, the trial will have to resume tomorrow. Who knows?
If only Coco could remember.
Do you know what we can use now, Phoenix? I don't think any of the evidence is conclusive enough to show that Suri had anything to do with the murder or the framing.
Perhaps not right now, but we may just see it in a moment.
What do you mean?
Suri made one big mistake that night. She got her hooves covered in fluorescent paint.
Oh, that
Whatever she
the
did also
the news
got
thing.
contaminated in that paint. And unfortunately for her, she just had to go the extra mile when framing Coco for the crime.
Oh, I see now.
All that's left is to see if we can make it stick.
I won't ask
Alrighty
again, Mr. Wright. Present your evidence now, if you have any, to prove that this witness is the real guilty party behind this crime.
He's got nothing. He can't have anything.
I'm afraid that's where you're wrong,
Okay.
Miss Polymere. I do have the evidence that proves that you were the guilty party, and it's right
Oh,
here.
the fluorescent stuff.
Take that!
Isn't that the fabric roll?
What in Equestria does that prove? There's nothing on there to suggest that I even touched it.
When looking at it normally, you're right. However, we've yet to examine this fabric roll completely.
Completely?
Your Honor, with your permission, I would like to perform
You're
one last
screwed.
test with the forensic flashlight. Once I shine it over this fabric roll, we'll see once and for all who really killed Overall Concept.
What? No. No!
Mr. Wright, I'm afraid I don't understand. How would any traces found on that fabric roll prove who killed the victim?
It's simple, Your Honor. When we adjourned for recess earlier, Coco told me she had regained some of her memories.
Oh? And what did she remember?
Unfortunately, she couldn't remember exactly what had happened on the catwalk, but she did remember everything after she awoke from being knocked out. This fabric
Good
roll
point.
was resting in her hooves. Hooves, which had suddenly become covered in glitter, despite the fact she had just washed them.
The fabric roll was in her.
Yeah,
hooves.
you're shaking now.
If she is to be believed, then this means someone must have placed it there, and there's only one pony who could have done that. Miss Pony,
Oh yeah.
I'm going to run this flashlight over this fabric roll. If we find your hoof
Yep.
prints on there, left clearly by the paint your hooves were covered in, then I would say this whole case is solved.
Well, it takes a long time to analyze hoops, huh?
There they are! Quick! Someone analyze them!
But she's guilty.
Prince Blueblood, are the results back yet?
Yes,
Yep,
Your
she's
Honor.
busted.
And what do they show?
The hoof prints found on the fabric roll match those of Suri Polymere.
It's over, Suri. Now that we know you're responsible for framing Coco, that would naturally mean you were also the one who killed Overall Concept.
Uh-oh. Either she's gonna explode or she's gonna run for it.
What do you have to say for yourself?
Okay.
Well, I do believe we've finally come to the conclusion of this
Yep.
trial.
I agree, Your Honor.
If I am to understand correctly, Miss Polo Mare was the only other pony at the scene of the murder, and all of the evidence points to her. Her motive was to steal a roll of the victim's fabric for the contest she was participating in, and she was caught in the process of stealing it and retaliated against her pursuers. After they were both knocked unconscious, she hung over all concept in an effort to get revenge on her former pupil.
Yay.
Yes, Your Honor. Everything lines up, and all the facts are in place.
Indeed. I see no room for doubt.
You did it, Phoenix! You won!
All's well that ends well.
No, no, I can't lose. Not to this.
Throw a hissy fit.
The truth led us to this conclusion, Blue Blood. There's nowhere else to go from here.
Yeah, you're screwed.
No, 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 no. I didn't do it. You have to believe me, please.
Not guilty.
Somebody
Huh?
help me.
Now then, I believe it is time I hand down my verdict. The court
Okay.
finds the defendant, Coco Pamel,
Aren't you supposed to be asked to go there first?
Please hold on for a second.
Coco?
Oh, she finally remembered.
Miss Pamel? What are you doing? I was about to hand down your verdict!
Wait! There's something I need to tell you. It's important.
Something important?
What is it, Miss Pamel?
I have an objection to the defense's last statement.
Interesting.
What?
Order! Order in the court! Defendant, what is the meaning of this?
I remember now. I remember everything.
Remember?
Wait, Coco, you regained all your memory?
Yes, all of it.
Alright,
What
let's
do
see.
you mean by all of it?
I can tell you in full detail about the chase, even what happened on the catwalk.
What?
Huh?
Well, don't just stand there looking adorable. Please, tell the court what you mean.
Then did he accidentally fall? Oh, that would annoy the hell out of
For
me.
a fact that Suri, she couldn't have been the one who pushed him down.
What?
That's
Impossible!
Let her finish.
Order in the court! Miss Pamel, do you realize
Yes,
what
it
you
does.
just said? By doing this, you're incriminating yourself.
Aren't you trying to make a mockery of this court?
Pamel, you stay out of this. This doesn't involve you anymore.
I'm going to be arrested for murder if I don't do
Really?
something.
That
What
punishment
do you
crap.
care? You hate my guts. If anything, you should be thrilled about this.
But I'm not. I can't just sit by and watch this happen. If I don't say anything, you're gonna get sent to the moon.
Maybe it's what I deserve for getting myself into trouble all the time.
No, you don't. You keep saying that's
Let's
everybody
hear
for
the statement.
themselves, but that's just not true. I've learned from a great friend that you should always show generosity to others, even if they may not deserve it. So I'm
I'm a
going
little
to help
confused too.
you, whether you want me to or not.
I couldn't care less about why you're doing this. What matters is what this means. Is this you confessing to your crime, defendant?
Not at all. If it's alright, I'd like to explain what I saw on the night of the murder.
Coco, what else is there left to be said? It's been proven that Miss Pullimer was behind this. I understand how you must feel, but...
Please, Mr.
Then
White,
tell us already.
to do this, I have to save her.
Anticipation is driving me
never
crazy.
kill
Go
anybody.
on.
And you trust me, right? You told me so. So please, let me testify. Let me tell you what really happened
Just
that night.
get on with it.
Alright, Coco.
Really?
If you're that certain of your own testimony, then I trust you. Your Honor.
Yes?
Please allow my client to testify. From it, we should be able to find the real truth of this case.
Very well.
Stop talking and let
Mr.
her
Bell,
talk.
please testify about what you witnessed at the night of the murder.
Thank you, Your Honor. And
Come
you
on.
too, Mr. Wright.
Underlay.
Coco. We're in uncharted waters now. The only thing I really know is that whatever it is Coco has to say will lead us to the truth.
I was returning from the restroom after washing my hooves with the paint and glitter. I suddenly saw Overall running up to the catwalk, and then I quickly followed him. While running up the stairs, I heard a loud clang from above. When I reached the top of the catwalk, I saw Suri looking over the edge with a special fabric in her mouth. I ran to her.
That
and
didn't
asked
help
what
your case
Overall
at
was,
all.
But then she swapped the roll in my head, and I was knocked out. When I came to, I looked down for the catwalk and saw Overall hanging with a rope tied around his neck. Before I could even scream, Larry found me, and I just stood where I was until the police came.
That seems to be quite consistent with what the defense has already uncovered.
Yes, but if you'll let me explain further.
Objection! Why are we continuing with this charade? Is this your handiwork, dirty human? Did you set this up just to rub my defeat in my face?
Of course not. It's our duty as keepers of the law to find the truth. The whole truth. If all you care about are your own personal victories, then I suggest you find a different occupation.
You little blue cretin! You dare disrespect me! Me! Prince Blueblood? Nephew to Princess Celestia her...
I don't care who you are. I'm here to find the truth. And if you aren't here to do the same, then the only experience you're gonna get with these trials is how to severely damage your own judicial system.
Crazy. Like I said, half is half. So,
Mr. Wright, please begin your cross-examination.
have a nice day.